Before your next thought pulls you somewhere else, just pause here for a moment. Notice your breath. Notice that even before we begin talking about presence or stillness, there's already an awareness here. I was listening to a talk a few weeks ago on Psalms 1 and 2, and one image really stayed with me. The image of the tree planted by the water, not forcing, not striving, not trying to become complete, just rooted. And honestly, I've been reflecting on that a lot lately because I think that many of us are being pulled around inwardly almost all day long. Thinking about the future, replaying the past, wanting life to feel different, wanting peace to finally arrive. Even when we sit quietly, the mind is usually still moving. And after a while, we can lose touch with the stillness underneath all of that mental movement. But what stood out to me about the image of the tree was the simplicity of it. The tree isn't struggling to become alive, it's alive because it remains connected to the source. And I think presence is a lot like that. Most of us are trying so hard mentally all the time, trying to figure everything out, trying to control outcomes, trying to finally arrive somewhere internally where we feel okay. But stillness is different than that. Stillness is not forcing ourselves into peace. It's noticing the peace that's already here underneath the noise. And honestly, I think this is why so many people feel exhausted right now. Not necessarily because life is impossible, but because the mind rarely stops moving. There's always another thought, fear, another distraction, another problem to solve. And over time, we begin to identify with all of the movement. We start believing every thought. We start reacting to every emotion. We start living almost entirely inside mental noise. But presence invites us into something deeper. Not into becoming spiritually perfect, not escaping life, but returning again and again. Returning to this moment. Returning to awareness, returning to stillness. And I've noticed something in my own life. The more attention goes into nonstop thinking, the more disconnected I feel internally. But the more I pause, the more I breathe, the more I stop fighting the present moment for a few seconds, the more clarity naturally returns. Not forced clarity, natural clarity. It's almost like muddy water settling. When everything keeps moving constantly, it's hard to see clearly. But when there's stillness, something deeper begins to appear. And this actually reminds me of a time a few years ago when I was surfing. The waves were a little bigger than what I was used to at the time. And I remember there was this moment sitting out there in the waves where I could feel the mind wanting to panic a little bit. But something else happened too. The more still I became internally, the clearer everything became. The waves were still powerful. The ocean hadn't changed, but inwardly there was less resistance, less mental noise. And I remember realizing afterward that calmness is not always about controlling what's happening around you. Sometimes it's about remaining grounded in the middle of what's happening. And I think presence is a lot like that. And I think many people are waiting for external life to finally give them peace. But peace is not always found by changing every condition around us. Sometimes peace begins when we stop mentally resisting what is already here, now. Even one breath, even for one moment. There's a line that has stayed with me lately. The blessed person is blessed now. Not later, not once life becomes perfect, not once everything finally works out. Here, now. And I think the mind struggles with that because the mind is always postponing peace. I'll relax when, I'll feel whole when, I'll finally rest when, but presence keeps us bringing back to what is actually here. Now, this breath, this moment, this awareness. And that doesn't mean we stop caring about life or stop growing. It simply means we stop building our entire identity from changing conditions, because conditions always change. Thoughts change, emotions change, circumstances change, but awareness itself remains. stillness remains, presence remains. And maybe that's the deeper invitation underneath all of this. Not becoming somebody new, not adding another layer to ourselves, but remembering what has always been here underneath the noise. Stillness, awareness, presence. Just here. If this resonates with you, subscribe for more teachings on presence, awareness, and stillness.